So now that's kind of where we're at with the overview of these credits. Now let's look at some examples. Here's example option 1, which would be an option here, not option 1 envelope options, but the option for a package, a cookbook here. And the recipe for electric space heat with electric water heating. And this would be the first one where you can reduce the UA with our code calculator by 5%, or do a cookbook approach where you do R38 in a vented crawl space instead of the minimum R30 in the code, and put R10 on the entire slab, and use a better window, slightly better window than the minimum 0.30 window required in the code. In addition, people are taking and tightening the building up to 3 air changes an hour and putting in an exhaust fan that meets Energy Star with an efficiency factor there, and they're getting an extra half a credit. Then they're putting in a centrally ducted air source heat pump with a higher efficiency than minimum, 9.5, and getting a credit for that. Moving all the ducts and the air handler into the conditioned space. Spending some time up front designing and with having your design team get together and figure this out. That's the challenge and the opportunity. And then putting in a NEA Tier 3 heat pump water heater. And these systems, you can go to their website and you can find out what systems qualify. They've been around for quite a while. They've done a lot of market research on them, and people have been using them in the 2015 energy code for quite a while now, and they've even got some more efficient options. And then you get that fuel normalization credit. So now you're up to 6 with an all-electric package, no gas lines to the house site for space heating. You could still do a development and use dual fuels. So the next option, let's look at another option here, a cookbook option. Next slide, please. So, here's some examples of the, let's just look. Here's an example of a full slab installation, triple pane, tighter envelope, to get your credit, additional high efficiency central system, moving the ducts inside. And here's a heat pump water heater that's actually ducted. You don't have to duct these units to get these credits, although the system has to have the capability to be ducted. Next slide. So let's look at another option here for all electric. This is where you, again, reduce the envelope by 5% or use a cookbook option. Get the home tighter to 3ACH50 with blow-it-orb and put in an efficient exhaust-only fan. Put in a central air source heat pump, 9.5. And now you're going to bury the ducts and put the air handler in the house and put in a drain water heat recovery to make up that other half a credit. So a lot of builders, people that don't want to deal with redesigning where their ducts are going to go and building chases and things, they may want to just put the drain water heat recovery ventilator system in and get that half a credits. And then, of course, the Tier 3 heat pump water heater, and you still get the fuel normalization credit there. So that's another option, kind of a trade-off of buried ducts with drain water versus moving everything inside, and then you don't have to spend the money on the drain water heat recovery system, which needs to be connected to both showers. And so work with your plumber and vet that. Figure out how much it's going to cost. Work with your heating contractor, figure out ducts inside versus buried ducts, and find out where the sweet spot is for your team. Next slide, please. So that's the options that one might see, buried ducts. There's a heat pump water heater. It's basically copper pipe, the heat pump water heater down for 2 credits, starting at the bottom, going across. There's a half a credit for that drain water heat recovery, buried ducts. Now, high efficiency heat pump, tighter envelope, triple pane, or some better envelope options of floor, slab. This is a fully insulated slab. Would be a way to get there. And that's another option. Next slide, please. So let's get into some gas. So some of the challenges here, I'm going to kick through this. Let's skip this slide. Go to the next one. So now we're going to go into gas. This is electric space heat with gas water heating. A lot of folks want air conditioning. So it doesn't make sense of why would you go with a gas furnace and an air conditioning coil for a similar price you can get a heat pump or a high efficiency one, pay for the difference. But some want gas backup, but for others, they're going to go to the heat pump and get air conditioning and efficient heating. and then they get their backup with the electric strip in the box. And then the client really wants gas water heating. They want that tankless never run out, or they want gas water heating for whatever reason. Here's an option that gets you there. So now you have to put in more thermal envelope on option 1.4, which would be reducing the UA by 15% with our calculator, or going with R38 in the floor, if it's a crawl space, or R10 under the entire slab, R4 CI, continuous insulation, underneath the siding. So you're breaking up all the thermal bridging associated with the framing, and also improving the durability and maybe even making the home a little tighter so you can pass the blow-it-door test. So that's a package, and then better windows, 0.25 windows, and that gets you a little bit better credit, 1.4. And then you go with the 3 air change an hour and the Energy Star exhaust fan, you get a half a credit. Now you've gone to a little bit higher efficiency central air source heat pump system. You've gotten rid of that backup gas furnace and spent your money on a better heat pump. Now, some of these heat pumps go much lower than classic heat pumps, which after about 35 degrees outside start to perform less efficiently, and you start to look at using backup electric resistance. So really work with your heating contractor. If you're a builder, or if you're a heating contractor, start offering to your builder option of 9.5 or an HSPF of 11, and look at the trade-off and the savings that the builder might get for not having to do higher envelope or other more expensive energy credits. Then, of course, always move the ducts into the conditioned space. Do your design charrettes up front. Redesign it. Make this drive it. So the first thing you ask the client is, you want air conditioning or not? That's going to drive whether you want a heat pump. Second thing is, all right, what's the floor plan? How are we going to design all the ducts and the air handler into the conditioned space? Those are 2 important things I talk to people all the time that call our office. It's the first things we start with. All right, those are opportunities for heating contractors and plumbers as we start to get into hot water. And this is a situation where instead of the heat pump water heater, there's a pushback on that. They said, I don't want to use that. I'm going to use gas. Well, here's your option. Put in a tankless with a UEF, Unified Energy Factor, of 0.91. That's kind of, it's got plastic pipe providing venting and plastic pipe for combustion air. It provides a much more cost-effective way of doing it than doing a vented water heater where you have to provide an insulated room for it. If it's in the home, insulated away from the home, because you're going to be required by mechanical codes to vent it, that cabinet. And so that we're not going to see many of those kind of water heaters, gas or electric resistance water heaters in the future with these energy codes. We're going to tankless, gas, combustion, condensing, or heat pump water heaters. And then you get the fuel normalization credit, because although you use gas water heating, you're still using a heat pump for the primary heating. Okay, so that's a combination, gas and water heating with electric space heat. Next one. Now we're going to do gas water heating again, and here's kind of the examples that we showed. Down there on the lower right, you see sort of a tankless gas unit. Again, ducts in the conditioned space, high efficiency air handler, and some of the other thermal envelopes, and a tighter envelope package with good ventilation. You see in the middle there's a credit there, and it shows the siding and this blue continuous insulation. That's CI, and that's something that I think more and more builders are doing. They're doing it all over the country in 2x4 walls to get to higher levels. I think the Northwest went to 2x6 walls back in the 80s, and so we never really embraced CI, and now's the time to look at it. A lot of building scientists say if you want a moisture durable wall that isn't going to condense, and I'll touch on this later, warming up the interior of that OSB as moisture hits it on a cold night and condenses is a good way to retain durability and make that wall more of a part of the system, the building science system we talk about. Next slide, please. Some challenges here. Let's move off on this one. Okay, so now we're going to talk about gas space heating and electric water heating as an option. So now we're going to do that same reduction. We're going to put an inch of foam on the walls for continuous insulation, fully insulate the slab, or put R38 in the floor instead of R30, or some combination with better windows to get you that 1.4 credit. full credit. Build type ventilate right without a heat recovery ventilator gets you to 2.1. Then you put in a high efficiency gas or propane furnace and you get a credit for that. And then you put in all your ductwork inside the conditioned space, throw a drain water heat recovery on the showers, and you put in a NEA tier 3 heat pump water heater. So your gas space heating, but electric water heating, and then you get 6 credits out of that. No fuel normalization credit because you didn't go with a heat pump or some higher efficiency carbon source-based system. Thanks. Next slide. All right, some examples again we've seen before. Except right there now on the lower left, you see a gas condensing furnace.